Hello and welcome to the Check Out This Record podcast. My name is Frank and with me is my good buddy Mark. This is the podcast where we talk about all sorts of musical goodness. We review albums we have never heard of before. We suggest albums to the other that they haven't heard of before to review. We have a wide variety of musical discussions. You can check us out on Instagram and YouTube, along with the most favorite places that you have to digest a good podcast. Hope you give us a follow. Hopefully you find this comforting and entertaining in what we have to offer. And if you're having a rough and stressful day, put this on and you can kind of just go ahead and escape into the stuff that we're talking about, which is, again, all sorts of musical goodness. Mark, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing well. You know, I just thought about people listening to us as like ASRM as they're trying to sleep. And it's just like two middle-aged fat punk rockers. Like, that's just me. Frank's not that fat. Like, oh, I've had such a bad day. Let me listen to these fat idiots and see. Just make myself feel better on the internet. Listen to people complain about records they didn't make and in no way would be able to. Oh, self-righteous prick. God, that makes me feel good. So,
see,
it just made me smile. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I had someone come up to me and they said, you know, that Greta Van Fleet episode you did, I liked it. It was the most entertaining thus far. This person happens to listen to all of our episodes, so I thanked them in advance. It made them go ahead and revisit Zeppelin, ironically, and check out Greta, and they just liked it. So I was happy to hear that. Cool.
Yeah, most people just tell me, like, you know, it's good to know that you're not just doing drugs, that you're being productive. So I'm enjoying the feedback. Keep giving us that feedback, folks. The internet is a fun place. You can say whatever you like, and we do.
Yeah, absolutely, and we sure do, my friend. And this episode is going to be fun. It's going to be a little different. We're not taking an album specifically and reviewing it. We're going to do a top 10 split into 5 into two categories, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then we're going to get into some spring releases, Mark, which I think we're both excited to talk about. Some albums that came out previously that we just want to touch base, and some future albums we're looking forward to talking about. So I'm excited to talk about these. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, I'm really excited. This is, kind of the idea behind what we're doing as part of the podcast, and just diving deep into new records and finding new sounds and enjoying that thrill of finding something new. Kind of in that first episode, if you guys were unfortunate enough to listen to that, Frank and I talked about some of the ways we find records and how we get into them. And one of the discussions we had along the way was how hard it is to find out what's coming out. You would think, bands take months between finishing an album and mastering an album before the actual release to promote these things. But sometimes it's just hard to find them, or, we're talking about smaller bands, so they get lost in the shuffle amongst some of the bigger names. So this was kind of one of those ideas that we had to help you guys see some of the stuff coming out. And please, if there's something you're excited about, a band or an album that's coming up, let us know. Maybe we don't review it on the air or on the podcast, however this science works. But maybe we just check it out, and who knows, maybe we find our next favorite band.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the rabbit hole, right? You keep digging and digging and finding all this stuff, and one thing leads to this, and another thing leads to that. I mean, Mark's introduced me to records and albums that are really cool, and I hope I did the same. And all you out there, please do the same. Do the same for us, because we're amped. We love music so much, and we can't wait to see what's coming up from some people. With that said, there's also some, I would say, bands that we, of course, would love to hear other albums from, and some that we don't want another album from. So, Mark, I think it's time for a top 10. Shall we, my friend?
We certainly shall.
There you go. You heard it here first, folks. Now, this is good. We're going to take 10, and of course, we're going to split it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take 5 bands that we want another album from, right? We just crave another album from them. And then we got some 5 bands here that we don't want another album from. So let's start with those that we want another album from. Should I start, Mark?
Yeah, let's do that. You go ahead.
Sure. So my favorite and it's tough to say sometimes your favorite because it's always switching. But right now, my favorite songwriter or person who composes songs, Tom Waits. Listen, I love his stuff. You don't have to be in love with his voice, but man, he just I don't really think there's a bad album in the bunch. Last album. It's been a while now. I think it's 2011. Bad as Me. So I want to hear some new stuff from him. I'm definitely interested and intrigued what he's got up his sleeve. It's always going to be entertaining. These are albums. I mean, Rain Dogs, I fall asleep to in a good way. I just put it in and really escape in his album. So I'm kind of amped, and I would love to hear if he's got something new coming up. Mark, you appreciate Tom Waits as much as I do, right?
I do. I get a text message from Frank's wife every time he puts that on when they go to bed about how she can't sleep. No, I'm just kidding. I really dig Tom Waits. I love that he's never conformed and always just written songs and performed the way he wants to. So I definitely would like to see a new Tom Waits record because I'm always just interested to see, what somebody of that kind of songwriting caliber has left up their sleeve.
Yeah. Absolutely. But we'd just love to hear it. And he's cranked out consistently good albums. The next is the Replacements. I'm a huge Replacements fan. They got back together a couple of years ago for some touring. I think they had like some cover EP come out, but they're also self-destructive. They can't be in the same space with each other, fighting and all those things. And we never got to see a potential new album. Do we really need one? I don't know, but I would love to have seen a new Replacements album. We probably won't. Westerberg may just be doing some solo albums here and there and stuff of that, but someone could still hope, and that someone is me. So a new Replacements album. Mark, I know you the very first episode we did the first Replacements album, but you would probably listen to it, right, if a new one came out.
Yeah, I mean, I think because of the contract you made me sign before doing this show,
yes,
I would have to. But no, I'd be interested to see. I definitely, when I did that fun deep dive on the first record and was listening to the rest of it, was really intrigued by how far from the path, I shouldn't say how far from the path they went, how far out of the box they went from what they set up on that first record.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really interesting to see where, the next dart would land, as they say. It would certainly be an interesting record to check out. I definitely give it a spin, that's for sure.
Cool. Next up is brand new. This band, they're an enigma, I think, in so many different ways. The 2006 release, The Devil and God Are Raging Inside of Me, is one of my favorite records of all time, and I really enjoyed the follow-up, Daisy. I think those two records made them legitimate rock bands. I know they kind of started off as that pop-punk emo, but I think they're a legitimate rock band, and they released this album Science Fiction in 2017, which isn't that long ago, but it was like they were brewing and everything kind of led up to this album dropping, and then eventually their demise, where they would make t-shirts that it would have the band's start date and end date. They're not really that public. Obviously the singer Jesse had some supposed, and I say supposed issues because this happened in his early 20s, and everyone gets blamed for everything nowadays. So I don't know any details other than what I just said. But they're an enigma of a band. They release albums when they say they're not. Fans got the albums on the release days that they had a release date, and then those who ordered it got it 2 weeks earlier. So I don't know. They're just very intriguing, but I think they write well-crafted songs. Mark, you've heard The Devil and God Are Raging Inside of Me, right?
Yeah. Sure. I definitely, I'm familiar with Brand New. I've heard that record. They're just one of those bands that just didn't hit the right chord for me. So this is one that, if a new album came out, I'd really have to hear you really sell me this record, because I couldn't be bothered with a new Brand New record.
I might just have to sell you it on. So maybe I'll take Daisy and sell you on it. So maybe for the future, right?
Yeah. Hey, I'm not opposed to it. It's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey man, we could say 2 words, and I understand what you're saying, so it works.
Mm-hmm. Let's have the listeners on their cell phones right now. feel the same way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Next is Chuck Reagan, from Hot Water Music.
Is that where you're from?
Yeah.
Okay, that's...
It's been a while since he's released something too. And I know he's still touring, but I think the last album was 2016. So I mean, it's still been a little while. I'd love to hear some new stuff. I know he has other passions and hobbies that he's into. He's got, I think, a small little foods company, and he has other interests that he attends to. But I would love to hear a new Chuck Reagan album. I love those Feast or Famine, Gold Country, Covering Ground. I actually don't think there's a bad Chuck Reagan album out there. So I'm amped to hear something from him if he wants to put it out. I'm all ears. Mark, I know you like Chuck Reagan. We saw Chuck Reagan live, actually. So
we did. I don't disagree with you. I would openly welcome a new Chuck Reagan record. Preview to what I'm going to talk about. I really like the last few Hot Water records, and he's been a lot more active and prevalent in the songwriting on the last few records. I'm happy with more Hot Water music albums, just because I like those two electric guitars. As great as he is with the acoustic and finding subtle accompaniment to really emphasize what he's doing. I'm a sucker for two loud guitars, bass, and drums. So I'd take it. I'd rather see a Hot Water music record.
Oh, is that foreshadowing to your list, by the way?
It is. Yeah.
Well, we'll get your list soon. The last one I have on there is American Steel. That I was listening to them this weekend, and I was like, man, I really liked them. First of all, Every New Morning came on, and I think that song is so awesome. I love Jagged Thoughts. I love so many tracks from them. I think we're due for a new one. It's been a while. I know they had their kind of offshoot band too called Communique, which is a totally different style, but that has been inactive as well for a while. So I know they had like a 2-song EP also come out. Again, I think they're a band that's criminally underrated, and they've influenced a lot of bands that me and you like. So yeah, New American Steel, they put it out. I'm on it, man.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I would love a new American Steel record. I don't. There's not a whole lot to say other than if you haven't listened to Dear Friends and Gentle Hearts, Destroy Their Future, Jagged Thoughts, or Rogues March, just pause the podcast, open whatever you stream music on, and listen to those records. Those records are fucking amazing.
Yeah, great records. And like I said, even their other kind of indie rock, almost killer sounding band, Communique, listen to them too. Good songs, well crafted. You may even think, well, why aren't they bigger? So I don't know the answer to that question, but check them out for sure. Those are my 5. Mark, time for your 5, my friend.
Yeah, definitely. So I loved this list, by the way. This was a fun one to make. Avail. I'm a huge Avail fan.
You are.
They went touring the 20th anniversary of Over the James. I'm really hoping that sparks let's get together and put 8 to 10 really quality tracks together. Tim Barry has a really hard time writing bad music. I absolutely love him as a lyricist. His acoustic stuff is phenomenal, but I love the way the band, just like you picking Chuck Reagan, I love the way that band cranks up everything he provides them. So Avail would definitely be on my list. What about you? Would you be into that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, Over the James, I remember you introducing me to that record years ago. What a phenomenal record. Obviously, Tim Barry has some great solo stuff too, which I love. But Over the James, that's such a good album, and they put out something new. I'm on it.
Yeah. So another band that I think is really at the top of their game. They're not necessarily. I mean, I guess they kind of are. They're kind of a concept band. I'm referring to Masked Intruder.
Yes.
They play it up. They have so much fun with it. The songs are catchy. They're fun. They're a little inappropriate because they're kind of about breaking into people's houses or stealing their stereo and just kind of fun and lighthearted and very kind of throwback rock and rolly, but still kind of punk at the same time. I would love another Masked Intruder record.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan, and I know of the song "Crime Spree." Is that what we're talking about? We're breaking into people's houses.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's certainly a few of them, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean they are like it's almost a novelty band where again you take this and we touch base on this kind of Ramones style type punk bands, but they've made it their own. You know, they really kind of set a whole little universe into what they have, and definitely a fun band. I admit I am less familiar with that third album that came out recently, but I know the first two, and yeah, I'm all ears if they put out a new one.
Cool. So the third one, for those of you who've been listening to the podcast for a while, you will know that Frank and I are huge Descendants / All fans. I actually don't want another, not that I don't want another Descendants record. I would take, without question, another Descendants record. I enjoyed the last one. If you didn't, you can go fuck yourself. What I want is another All record, and I want another Chad Price All record. I absolutely love. If you haven't heard the bootleg of Chad Price singing Everything Sucks, basically the whole record, it's amazing. I kind of go back and forth between whether or not it's better than Milo singing it, but it's just two very different people approaching the same band, two very different singing styles, approaching the same band, and I just love that band. I love Chad's the way he expresses himself through song, especially when it comes to just that ripping and shredding and classic chainsaw pop that is All.
Oh yeah.
So next in my list is Hot Water Music. Told you so. I too, like Frank, I really dig Chuck's solo stuff. But like I said, the last 2 or 3 records have really been Chuck heavy. And I really dig it. I'm a Chuck fan. I know that's not the popular Hot Water Music opinion, but I don't really give a shit what people think. I like Chuck, and not that. Oh crap! I'm gonna completely lose his name right now.
Chris Willard,
and the Ship Thieves, fantastic record. Go check that out. Not that he doesn't write great songs too. I just happen to like the dynamic, and right now, Chuck's making great Hot Water Music records. So I would be really into a new Hot Water album.
Yeah. Just to back you up on that, All and Chad Price. First of all, we're big All Descendants fans. On the All side, definitely all about Chad Price, and it's interesting because they've only really had 4 albums, 5 if you're counting the live with him, and the last one really. Proper album, not the live album, but it was released in 2000. So it's been a long time since we've had an All record with Chad Price. His vocals are beautiful, and I don't want to take credit for it, but I am solely responsible for Pummel being on Spotify. And that's my favorite All record. And when I saw him play last May, I mentioned it, and then shortly after it was on Spotify. So I'm taking freaking credit for that.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Frank does all kinds of things on the internet. A round of applause.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're standing, Frank. Can you see that they're standing as they applaud you?
As they should.
Yes. And they're seated. Okay. Anyways, so another band that I really feel is at the top of their game right now, both musically and lyrically, is Propaganda. Victory Lap was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was.
The last, all of the albums have been fucking awesome. I would just love another Propaganda album.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I mean, musically, creativity, all the creative juices are they're just flowing constantly. They write well-crafted, beautiful songs, lyrics that make you think. Listen, it doesn't matter what they feel about things. It's more of life, and there is things to relate with. Without Love, from one of their albums is one of my top favorite songs of all time, and it almost gets me emotional. It's that good. Musically, man, they can play. Just beautiful stuff, and I'm all about a new Propaganda album.
Yeah, I just think yes, let's do it. And then I added an extra one in there, not because Frank and I both had Hot Water Music / Chuck Reagan, but because I do what I want.
True.
I want another Lillingtons record, man. How much did you love the Lillington record I gave you? I was going to say X-Ray Style and Art Rock, but that's a Joe Strummer.
I was going to say, wait a minute, that's a Strummer record.
The TV. Oh my god, my brain.
Death by Television.
Death by Television.
I listened to it earlier today, so ironically, and we are talking about it. Absolutely great album, and I know in that episode that we spoke about the LinkedIn, she said, "Well, check out the 2017 album, the Stella Sapiente." Excuse my.
See, I'm not the only one who can't say it.
Yeah, there you go. But I tell you what, that's a great album too. I mean, some great songs on there: "London Fog," "Villagers," "The Walker." Love the vibe, love the darkness of it.
Yeah, I would just like to see where else they go.
Yeah,
you know? I'm totally. I will buy a ticket to wherever that train goes. And it sounds like you're on board with me.
Yeah, totally. Let's take the same ride and let's see where it takes us, man.
Wonderful. Well, I'll tell you what, since you went first last time, why don't you go first again and tell us top 5 bands you don't ever want another record from?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to kind of think of these sometimes, and you don't want to kind of diss a band that you really love, but I think sometimes we just have to and let them know, hey, listen, man, listen, you've done all you could do. When you play live, you have a great catalog and great inventory of songs to go ahead and play. Hey, just work off those. Number 1, Social D. That's Social Distortion, folks. And I really don't want another record from them. Why? Is because they moderately broke my heart, because Sex, Love, and Rock and Roll, released in 2004, was a beautiful record. One of my tops, as I know, Mark, you fancy that album just as much as I do. But then in 2011, we get Hard Times and Nursery Rhymes, which to me is a step backwards. And I can't stress that enough. The songs were corny. They didn't do anything. Lyrically, they're even more remedial. And Social D's not known for basically having phenomenal lyrics, but the lyrics worked the way they did it before. So wasn't digging that album at all. I always skip by it. And so Social D, just stick with what you guys have. Mark?
Yeah, so we didn't plan this, but Frank and I both wrote Social Distortion for the first
we did. We really did.
We don't want another album from. And I agree with Frank. Listen, really, Sex,
Love and Rock and Roll.
Sex, Love, Rock and Roll. Thank you. To me, it is a perfect rock and roll album.
Oh, beautiful.
It just top to bottom. It's really phenomenal. I think it's Mike Ness's best work. You can really hear him putting his heart and soul into it. And then with Nursery Rhymes and Other Crimes, is that what that garbage is called?
Hard Times and Nursery Rhymes.
Hard Times and Nursery Rhymes. Look, in a very Mike Ness metaphor, you're out of gas. We're just, it's done. You can't rebuild it. It's shot. There's a piston gone. You drove the fucking thing into the ground. Just stop.
Yeah.
Frank's willing to go see you on tour.
I am.
I've seen them like 3 times. I'm probably good at this point unless I get a great supporting act. They're a great band. Buy the DVD. The DVD's great.
You can always watch Another State of Mind, and you can see the early days of Social D.
Right, and then you realize why you shouldn't like him at all. But yeah, I'm just a hard pass on another Social D album, man.
Yeah. And speaking of last time I saw them live, great show, but it was disappointing when the opening song were songs from Hard Times and Nursery Rhymes, and I was just like, I just don't want to hear any of them. However, though, the opening act, which I'll eventually throw this album your way, but Jay Jackson, who Mike Ness's son plays for in her band, phenomenal. So we'll touch base on her. She deserves, I think, her own episode. But I was at least glad to see that. That's my first. My second one is NoFX, and the reason is because a lot of it has to do with Fat Mike. I saw him on an episode of What's in My Bag, and for that record store in Amoeba in LA. Everything to him is just he talks in sarcasms. It's an absolute joke now. Everything I think is a joke. I think he's lost himself in this character that he's become, which I don't know what it is. Apparently, also he has his podcast too, which I even forgot to mention to you about. I don't know if you heard about this, but where he, I guess, talks about people I guess he gives advice to people, relationships, and based on their sexuality, and based on even if they're having gender identity issues. Which, listen, I don't care what the issues are, but why are you going to Fat Mike for these issues? That's I think that's the important question to be asking. That, and he has a riff with the guy from Propaganda, who's a real straight up original type of dude. And if you have a riff with him, I don't know, maybe something's wrong. So I think Fat Mike has lost himself into this character he's created. The last NoFX albums for me just have been very flat. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I do not need another NoFX album. It's been a lot of the same for the last few albums, and it's not going to change. Fat Mike has kind of classically said he didn't do drugs until he was successful. Now that he's successful, he's doing drugs, and I think that's what we've lost him to, that creativity, that drive. Look, the guy has a very successful independent band, of which he owns the record label too.
Totally.
He owes us nothing. He can do whatever he wants. Go for it, dude. I just know that I'm done buying your records. I'm not even interested in seeing you guys live anymore.
Yeah.
I had heard about the podcast. I know he had made mention about before getting his degree, or not his degree, his license to sell real estate, which he never did because the band took off, that he had gone to college for sex therapy or something to that effect.
Yeah, I heard about that too, yeah.
Yeah, and he's classically I don't know that he classically cheated on his wife. He's been dating a dominatrix of one or the other. I don't know who or what. I don't really care. But I think it's kind of silly that people would play Dr. Drew with Fat Mike. I mean, go for it. I'm sure he's going to give you a very honest or funny answer. I just don't. I couldn't care. I find him infuriating. Like when they announced they were going to talk about all the new records, and you had to sit there for 5 minutes while he was just drugged out, barely talking about the bands that he's going to release albums of. I was just like, wow, way to just not care. Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, and hey, I get it's his right not to care, but it's
sure,
right to not buy his stuff. So, but I mean, hey, look, I already talked about Masked Intruder. They'll probably be on Fat if they put out another record anytime soon, and he's going to get my money that way.
Yeah, but he'll indirectly get our money. Absolutely.
Yeah. As long as his ex-wife keeps successfully running that record label, I'm fine.
Yeah, what an interesting dynamic that is, right?
Mm-hmm. So, what do you got next for me?
Next is going to be a band that in the 80s and early 90s I really liked, and that was Def Leppard. And then they got incredibly weak, and they continue to get weak. And they also make reference to that they can write albums reminiscent of those early days that were very guitar driven and heavy and rock and roll, and but however you want to classify them, but they choose not to, and I can't help for the life of me figure out why. Now, Joe Elliott is another one who says, well, when you're on tour, you're just going to get our greatest hits. That's what people come to see, and that's fantastic. That's great. So with that said, stop putting out then the stuff that's really garbage. I mean, it's just surface level stuff. It's a cash grab. Yeah, man. Def Leppard, stop putting out records. Mark?
Hey, what has 9 arms and sucks?
Is it going to be Def Leppard? Is that what you're going to say?
So what do you got next?
All right. So a band that I think we both really, I don't want to say fell in love with, but I mean really started having an affinity for many years ago when we both found out about it. I forgot the sequence of events. Having kids will do that to you. But the Ava Brothers, man, I mean, some of their early records I really like. I like Four Thieves Gone, Emotionalism.
Frank, if I may.
Yeah.
We should clarify for the listeners that you have had some children in between us discovering the band. And now, not that you had some kids that are the Avett Brothers.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
I mean, so it just, I don't know if anybody caught that but me, but it sounded like you were suggesting.
That my kids are the Avett Brothers?
Right. And that you don't want them to make records anymore.
Yeah, so, yeah.
But if they were your kids, you'd be like, hey, guys, let's make those records.
Yeah, totally. So first of all, my kids are not the Avett Brothers. I have 2 beautiful daughters, and they're not the Avett Brothers. And what it was is I discovered the Avett Brothers in the midst of my oldest being a youngster, and my brain just is mush as it is right now, apparently. But anyway, for a while, the Avett Brothers to me haven't been putting out really good albums. I think it's too much. I mean, you had The Carpenter in 2012, you have Magpie and the Dandelion in 2013. There was a live record in 2015, True Sadness in 2016, and then Closer Together. I'm all for the output, but like the output has to be quality, and I just haven't heard stuff of the earlier days, and I don't know what that is. A lot of it sounds a little bit softer to me. If they could stop maybe for a couple of years, and maybe even a little longer than that, actually a couple of years, and get some new inspiration and go from there, I'd be into that. Mark, your thoughts on what I said?
Yeah, I haven't really gotten into a new Avett Brothers. Probably I Am Loving You, 2009. The live record released the next year is fantastic, but The Carpenter just didn't do anything for me, and that's the way it's been since then.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Like, I've got a beautiful palette, but I'm only painting it brown.
Thank you.
Is the way I feel. Plus, True Sadness looks like the cover from Give Them Enough Rope.
It does. Oh my God, same colors and everything.
Distracting to me because I'm always like, oh, let's listen to Give Them Enough Rope, and then I'm like, oh, that's Avett Brothers, and I don't like that record.
Yeah.
So maybe I need to go back and give that another chance. Maybe there's a big Clash connection that I just haven't picked up until right now. Other than like, damn it, why isn't this the Clash? But I doubt it. So I'm not going to.
There you go. I hear you, man. I hear you. And my number 5, and I really, it saddens me to kind of put it on the list, but it's the boss, man. It's Springsteen. I listen, Western Stars, it wasn't good. I'm sorry. And I don't get how people just automatically flock and say it was like an amazing album and it deserves its whole documentary. And I got to hear song by song how they were all crafted. Listen, it's a snooze fest. And I think we both joked about it that once we got to the song Sleepy Joe's Cafe, we were practically knocked out. Everything sounded the same. To me, it was no original thoughts. Wow, you made a Western style themed supposed folk album, which I could argue that the album really is not even that traditional folk sound. I don't need it. In fact, I didn't need the albums before that. Magic is the last great album he put out, and it's even better than The Rising. So that's my stance, Mark.
Yeah, I liked Working on a Dream. But I think Magic was his last great release, and we're talking 13 years ago on that. Promise, Wrecking Crew, High Hopes, Chapter and Verse. I did enjoy the Broadway performance.
Right. Sure.
I liked watching it as opposed to just listening to it because, if you've never seen the Boss before, he's phenomenal. Go see him live. He's going to outlive me at this point. And maybe you, Frank. I plan on dying young, but
there you go.
With his level of income, there's no reason to believe he couldn't live to 170, 180.
There you go.
That said, just stop putting out records, bro. Like, go see him live because he's phenomenal and he puts on a fantastic show.
Oh, hands down.
But you don't need to go see him. You don't. Or excuse me, you need to go see him. You don't need another record. It's one of those things. He wrote a ton of great stuff. I don't want to say it hasn't felt the same since the big man passed, Clarence Clements. But I'm going to go ahead and say it. Like, it just hasn't had the same.
A little oomph is gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Bruce is fantastic. But I'm with you. I could just go ahead and be happy with what I have.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah.
My thoughts exactly. That rounds out my top 5, man. What about you?
So like I said, my first band was Social Distortion.
Oh my God, you copied my list, Mark.
I totally did. My second one was NoFX. Wait a minute. Oh no, I'm just reading.
No, that's my
Van Halen. Van Halen in any form.
Wow. Including Van Hagar, huh?
Yeah, no Van Hagar. None of it. None of the guy who got shot with the cannonball. I'm just
It's a joke now, right?
It
It's
is a
become a
joke.
joke. It's become a joke.
I'm under the impression that Eddie Van Halen, as of like the last 10 years, had recorded guitar riffs for pornography. I don't want to listen to that. I just want him to keep doing that and leave rock and roll alone. Like you just don't need to add anything. You haven't added anything in a very long time, so stop it.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
You're with me? Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. Listen, Hagar, he's got $90 million from his tequila company. He could do what he wants. He doesn't need the guys from Van Halen.
Right.
I get it. They're territorial. You know, you got Wolfie now in the band. Of course, he's been in the band for a while as a
I don't even want to see him live, though. Do you?
Yeah, no, because I saw some live clips even with Roth, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's to me it's a comedy act. Like he looks like an absolute just a weirdo up there doing his his David Lee Roth stuff. And listen, Eddie, I don't think has the chops anymore for it. So let's not do it.
I would be interested to see Ross from Friends, though.
Yes, actually, front Van Halen.
With Van Halen. So I take that back. I will take a Ross from Friends.
Yes. We're going to make that happen.
Yeah, Ross Halen. Then I don't know.
Hey, man, we're tired. What can we say?
Yeah, so this is the one Frank's going to disagree with me the most on.
I'm sure.
Less Than Jake. Yeah. Just stop it. Look, stop it. Okay, and the side projects, they're not good either. Hey, look, just keep doing your Ska's Not Dead tours, keep playing shows, keep having fun with it. I don't need another record. I don't. Make another T-shirt. I'll buy another T-shirt.
Oh.
I just don't need another record. They haven't been interesting. They haven't said anything in a long time. So let's stop.
You just want them to stop, right?
Just stop making records, man. You guys want to go on tour? I'll go see them. I saw them maybe 2 or 3 years ago. They were still quite fun live. And they played the new songs and it was just a thud. Like, you moved because you can tap your toe to it, but not because it meant anything to you. And they're not going to mean anything to us. So let's stop pretending that they will.
Ooh. The 2008 record, the GNVFLA, Gainesville, Florida, abbreviated, that to me was a super good record. I thoroughly enjoyed that. The rest of them do blend in, so I can see. And if you just go from that point on, 2008 and prior, it's a huge catalog with really ska punk staples like Hello Rockview and Losing Streak and even Pezcore, which I thoroughly enjoy. So that's enough to go off of. I could see where you could think that. I could see where you could think that. Of course, that's not going to happen. We're going to get a new album like tomorrow or something.
Yeah, probably. No, personally, I think like Hello Rockview and Older. That's all I want to hear.
There you go.
I don't even care about any of the rest of this.
What do you got next?
Next for me is Flogging Molly.
Ooh.
People love them. They go on cruises with Flogging Molly. They kind of fall. I was torn between Dropkick Murphys and Flogging Molly.
Interesting.
Not because they're interchangeable, but because they're the only two bands in the Hey, we're Irish punk category. Right? And for those of you at home who don't know Frank, he doesn't have any tattoos unless there's something you want to tell me.
No, I do not.
But the rest of you have your pirate ship and your stars and your swallow tattoos. We have done the pirate punk thing. We've done the Irish punk thing. Let's let that sound go. If you guys still want to go see them on the cruise, and I think they're playing with the Descendants this year, maybe we need to go, Frank.
Maybe.
But I also think Bad Religion's on that, and I don't really feel like fighting Greg Griffin. Go see them. They're fun live, and I won't take that away from them. I just don't need any more records. They're like Go Go Bordello. I don't need another Go Go Bordello album. I don't need another Dropkick Murphys. It's like you're fine with where they're at, right? Yeah, I'm fine with 3 records ago.
There you go. Well, listen, 2008's Float fantastic, right? And then I remember the 2011 release Speed of Darkness, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm not quite too sure about this. And that carried on to the Life is Good 2017 record. You're not saying you can't evolve, but here's the thing these bands have to keep in mind while evolving is the songs still have to be good.
Well, and here's the bigger point for me. Go back to these records. Do they hold up? Yeah, the musicianship's still great. The sound recording's still fine. I just don't want to listen to them.
Yeah.
I just have no desire to go like, oh, you know what? I got to put that on today.
There you go.
You know, like every St. Patrick's Day, I listen to Dropkick Live from Boston on St. Patrick's Day. And that's it.
There you go.
I mean, it's become a shitty holiday tradition. Like, I don't want any more of this.
Hasn't compelled you enough to be listening to it outside of St. Patrick's Day, pretty much.
Correct. So, in short, my fourth pick is Flogging Molly, Dropkick, and Gogo Bordello.
Wow. So what's that? Yeah, it's all the same. Yeah. So what's that fifth one for you, man?
So the actual fifth one, you guys heard us talk about it right after it released. Green Day. Green Day has proven that they do not know how to make records anymore. They're not good at it. They haven't been for some time. These records are literally just getting worse. Just stop.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
I listen. I'm with you. Listen, American Idiot obviously was a huge deal for them. It revitalized basically their career, reinvented them. It's been a slow downhill for me personally after that. First of all, 21st Century Breakdown in 2009, I didn't care for. The Uno Dos Tres, didn't care for that either. Revolution Radio, didn't care for it. And of course, this Father of All, we all know we don't care for it. So yeah, just American Idiot, and I guess backwards from that point on, right?
Yeah, I'll just take backwards from there on. I don't even hate American Idiot. I just don't. What are we as musicians? What are you adding to the world by or as an artist in any form? What are you adding to the world when you make these records? And, that last record proved nothing. Literally nothing. I'm adding nothing. I'm recycling something I vomited up a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
that's the best you can get out of me.
I'm with you, man. And that rounded up, our five that we from people we don't want to hear, which is funny too, because now we're gonna slide into new releases, and by the time.
There's a lot of people on here we didn't want more records from.
Hands down, absolutely. Now, by the time we're recording this, which is in late February, there are some records to have already been released. One of them being Green Day, of course, Mark. I mean, you want to talk about Father of All anymore, or?
No, I'm good.
Okay, good. Well, let's start going into some albums that were released already, and if we have any thoughts on them, and then kind of look at the calendar and see what we have coming up and what's kind of exciting us and sparking some interest. So, kind of have an album here. I was curious as to your thoughts on it, Mark, and that's Ozzy Osbourne, Ordinary Man. That's his 12th album.
Yeah, 12th studio solo album, right? He did the 5 Sabbath albums.
Yes.
The first 4 and then supposedly the last one.
Yeah.
17 albums for Ozzy. I think I think we need to let Ozzy retire. He was quoted as saying this is the only record he's ever done completely sober.
Okay.
Which is amazing because Duff and Slash from Axl Rose play on the record at parts. And Post Malone and Post Malone's Dude, I should say, Post Malone's on 2 tracks, but one of Post Malone's big producers, which I just assume means he does a lot of drugs, produced the album for Ozzy and played most of the instruments on it. So really interesting. I think I'm an Ozzy Osbourne apologist.
Sure.
I love the first 4 Sabbath records. You and I will do something Sabbath related at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think it's an important part of rock and roll and heavy music.
Huge.
That we can't ignore. So we'll talk about Sabbath at some point. And then as you get into Ozzy's solo career, you have to ask yourself, was it Ozzy that prevented him from keeping a band together? Was it his management? Was it, his wife, Sharon Osbourne, notorious for running his career for him? Was she the reason we couldn't keep a band together? And is that why, the albums, short of the first few solo albums, which were, kind of his highlight, to me, Osmosis is really the last good Ozzy record, and really we're only talking about the first half of that.
Yeah.
It's the stuff before that that's phenomenal. Your Bark at the Moon, your Diary of a Madman. He's got really cool, fun records that were very much a sound of the time. The problem was when you tried to ramp those into the future and into now, it just didn't work, man.
Didn't work, right?
Yeah, and this record is a great example of that, because it sucks. Oh my gosh, my brain right now. I listened to this record 3 times today. So if I'm not the most fluent person, it's because I'm channeling Ozzy right now. It starts with a song called Straight to Hell. And, you just heard me and Frank say we love The Clash. So I got really excited because he did that cover album a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which was terrible. We could talk about that another time, too.
Sure.
But I was like, oh, cool, he's going to do a Clash cover. But not at all. There's a song featuring Elton John. That single, Under the Graveyard, was stupid and terrible. I think Straight to Hell was another single. And then It's a Raid featuring Post Malone was released, I think, the day before the record came out.
Oh my
God.
God.
It's so stupid. And then there's a Post Malone song featuring Ozzy at the end of the album. So it's just, it's so dumb. Like, I just couldn't get past how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
I attribute a lot of this to not being able to keep that consistency together, because I feel like, especially for a guy like Ozzy, musically it all kind of does the same thing because it never really has a chance to progress.
Right.
Randy Rhoads died really early on, and he's still able to put out a couple great records after that. And then there's kind of the Zakk Wylde era, and then even then you kind of get in and out with different people playing guitar and different people on bass and drums, and who knows who's helping him write these songs, and it never grew and never developed. And then you get, of course, Ozzy being Ozzy, and the lyrics have never been fantastic. I mean, dude, there's a song on here called "Scary Little Green Man."
Oof.
It's so bad.
It sounds stock. It's just like they took these terms that would fit like Ozzy, and they're like, okay, well, this is going to be like the name of the song, and here you go, have at it.
Yeah. I don't know. This dude Watt, the producer Watt, wrote apparently most of the music, and like I said, played most of the instruments in it, other than where they got Slash to fill in.
Wow.
Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers played the drums on most of the record, if not all of it. I got to check. I think there's some digital stuff in there that he probably didn't do. But
it's almost like a super group now, right?
But that's the problem with those, right? Like, they never really get the opportunity to develop, and that's kind of historically Ozzy's problem. One of the reviews I've read was really funny because it was just this is Ozzy's first album in 10 years, which is the largest gap between Ozzy Osbourne albums ever. Wow. He's never gone 10 years without a record. And then the next sentence is, it's also the best record he's put out in the last few years. Yeah, I mean, it kind of is. The last 2 records were just so silly and over the top. I mean, that's kind of what you expect out of Ozzy. But he's never been able to harness the charm of those first 4 or 5 records.
Yeah, I mean, this show did him into where it made him more of a joke than someone to be taken seriously. So I think that unfortunately was against him. But it doesn't sound entertaining from what I'm hearing from you.
No, it's just not. It's kind of sad. Again, I'm an Ozzy apologist.
You are, absolutely.
I love Sabbath. I've seen Ozzy live a few times. I've seen Sabbath live. Mind you, they were all Sabbath performances, that is, were all Ozfest performances. But you know what? I still got to see him, so fuck you.
Yeah, nice.
And they're still one of the most important bands of all time.
Hands down.
Those first solo records are really cool. Even when they're stupid, they're really cool.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that, like, he canceled yet another year's worth of touring due, quote unquote, to health. So, like, could this be the last Ozzy record?
Oof.
It could be. And, maybe good on him that he did it sober.
Right.
Maybe there is some depth in here if we kind of really, strip it down and just look at the lyrics and just try to see what he was doing. But I doubt it. I mean, honestly, he was super fun live. If you had the opportunity, you know that he brought it. Even when he supposedly wasn't singing, he still had a ton of fun and and the crowd had a lot of fun. Maybe because he was finally sober enough to do this, he needed to do the album to pay for the rehab. I don't know. I don't know why he's compelled to keep making music. Maybe he just has it in him, but I doubt it. So let's move on. What else has come out already that you want to talk about?
Well, sure. So last Friday, Greg Dooley's Random Desire, Greg Dooley from the Afghan Wigs. Yeah. I really like this record and I want to listen to it even more so. But initial thoughts is, listen, he's got a craft. He's got a certain way of doing things. And I think it fits nicely and wedged into what you would see from someone like him who fronts the Afghan Wigs and this other band, the Twilight Singers. It's a little bit more of that almost Black Love type vibe. It's these really kind of dark, thoughtful songs. You hear his voice do a couple different things in here, which is pretty cool because, again, he's got this chameleon vocal range, and it's not like amazing. You can even hear the creaks in it and the flaws in it, which I absolutely just love. I absolutely love that. It's almost kind of Nick Cave-ish, which is cool, but it sets the mood. A lot of cool tracks on here. One called Marry Me, Scorpio, It Falls Apart, A Ghost, Black Moon. I'm just really digging this record. I can't wait to listen to it more. Just came out last Friday, but I'm excited to get a solo record from this guy. And I know, Mark, you like Black Love, right?
Yeah, I was able to give this just a quick once over, if you will, and I really dug it. It's one of those definite let's take a trip to Denver in your favorite lazy boy and just get into this record because it sounded really cool, but I was definitely way too busy with whatever I was doing at the time to really get into it. And this is one I'm going to make time to get into this because it did, like, right out of the gate, you get that noir feeling that he was going for in Black Love, and it's like, ooh, I want more of this. So
yeah,
I'm really excited to check that out and kind of get into it. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah, and I know one we were talking about too, Mark, that you were really digging was Huey Lewis and the News and his record Weather, right?
Yeah, man. I actually so I was a little surprised that this record was coming out at all. Not for nothing against Huey Lewis and the News. Like, I just remember him from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And just that, and just kind of being there. And I know you kind of got more into the sports album, which was the big record for Lewis and the News.
I believe you got that for me, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, so this was kind of cool. I had this killer migraine, and I just put this record on, and Huey is so soothing.
Yeah, right.
He's just it's a fun record. It's just it feels a little bit like a tribute to old time rock and roll. He kind of does a little, there's a little country at the end. There's what feels like some really 50s rock and roll vibes. There's some 60s stuff in there. He really has fun with it. Lyrics are kind of fun. They're a little cheeky in some spots. Like the song about one of them being Democrat, one of them being Republican.
Yeah, I hear you.
But at the same time, it's a Huey. This is a bonus record if there's ever been a bonus record. Oh, wait a minute, you didn't know about that Huey Lewis record that just came out for no reason?
Yeah.
It opens with that song "While We're Young," and it's funny because he's fucking old as shit. It's just it's kind of it's a great record to just kind of put on. And like, if you just need to like get some typing done and you just need something nice in the background, put on this fucking record, man. This record's, it's entertaining. It's lighthearted. It's fun. I enjoyed it. It's the year 2020 and Mark Cheever likes a Huey Lewis and the News record. So
Nice. Yeah, I mean, listen, he knows his stuff too. I sent you that video of him in a record store. The guy knows music, man. He's a true music fan. That whole rock, pop, Blue Eyed Souls stuff. He's a wealth of information. Personally, you have to remember in 2008, he was suffering from hearing loss from a result of a disease. So, I'm glad we're able to get a Huey Lewis record. It is soothing. It is, I think, calming. There are some good tracks on it. Yeah, there's some cheeky stuff like you just made reference to, but you know what though? Hey man, it doesn't all have to be serious all the time. It's a good record, fun record. Put it on. I think people will enjoy it, man. I really do. I really do. One I want to talk about just very, very briefly, but that's Stone Temple Pilots. They put out their second album now with their new singer, Jeff Gutt is his name. This album's called Perdidia. And I tell you what, I wasn't expecting it. First of all, let me go on record saying I think Jeff's voice here, and his voice in general, I should say, is really reminiscent of Scott Weiland, which left a big hole in a band like Stone Temple Pilots. First of all, he was a phenomenal frontman, in my opinion. Showman, really engaging with the crowd, and a good vocalist. This guy has a very similar vocal range, so it's nice to hear. But what we get, we're not getting electric guitars here and blaring rock sounds and blaring, almost that grunge sound. We're getting soft rock almost. We're getting folk. We're getting these really mellow alternative tracks with acoustic guitars. And that kind of sets the atmosphere for it. So, this is another one I have to listen to more, but I was intrigued. What about you, Mark? Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, this was another one that I gave another quick listen to, and I thought I put the wrong record on.
Nice.
It was cool, very atmospheric, very moody. Was not expecting this out of a band like Stone Temple Pilots, and it was cool to hear them do. I think this is something I'm going to dive deeper in, and maybe we'll talk about it later on down the road. If figuring out how far into this me and Frank get, if there's more worth talking about, I think you'll hear about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, is there any other records you want to talk about that have already come out, or should we get into things that are going to come out?
Well, just real quick,
yes.
Anti-Flag released a record kind of ironically called 2020 Vision.
Oh.
We see what you did there, guys.
I see it. I see it.
It sucked. Look, I'm all for political punk rock. I'm all for having a statement and making it. I just needed to not sound like the last three records. And
there you go.
It'd be from the heart. And this record just doesn't feel genuine. That they haven't felt genuine in a while. And maybe that's me. Maybe I'm stuck on Terror State's the best thing you've ever done, and you're never going to be able to beat that. But the last few records have been terrible, and this one just falls in line with that kind of lesser than sound that they have. There's a band called Wire who released an album called Mind Hive, which is kind of cool. It's kind of an artsy punk, a little bit of mathcore, a little bit of B-52s.
Oh.
If you get a chance, check it out. Not quite as cheeky as B-52s. It's a cool record. I don't know that you're gonna like fall in love with it, but I think you'll dig it. And then because I've said it before, and I really think it's worth mentioning, Spanish Love Songs.
Yeah.
Raise Faces, Everyone. It's still my number one album of the year. I know that you were worried Ozzy was going to squeak it out. But no, Spanish Love Song, Brave Faces, Everyone. I still just love that record. It's so fucking good.
Nice.
Yeah. Were you good? You ready to move on?
Yeah, man. Ready to move on. So go ahead. You go first, my friend, because I think you have one you want to talk about, right?
Yeah. So after we record this, but before you listen to it, how does that work? After we record this, yeah.
Yes.
But before it comes out,
yes,
there will be an album that comes out called F8, which is at the top of your keyboard, Frank. I think if you press that, you'll shut down the internet. It's by a band called Five Finger Death Punch. I'm pretty sure this is their 8th record. If you're not familiar with Five Finger Death Punch, Frank, and am I right? You are not.
That is correct, my friend. I am not. I heard of them, absolutely. No people to dig them, but I can't say I sat down and have listened to one of their records.
This is like a Costco jar of mayonnaise that has been opened.
Ew.
And then the jar, or the lid of the jar, just discarded. And then instead of putting it in the trash, because it's that big Costco jar, because it won't fit really in the trash can, somebody just leaves it next to the trash can, and then they just never throw it out for months, and it just stinks, and it's shitty old mayonnaise, and that's Five Finger Death Punch.
Wow,
so
there you go.
It's coming out soon. We won't be talking about it because I think it's going to be fucking more Five Finger Death Punch garbage. Yeah, so there are some albums coming up, though, that have not yet been released, and when you listen to this, will still not have been released unless you're listening to this way out in the future.
Yes.
Totally possible.
Totally possible.
But as of the recording of this, the end of February, beginning of March, here's some records that haven't come out yet that we're excited to talk about. I'm going to start with Brian Fallon, formerly of the Gaslight Anthem, releasing another solo record, Local Honey.
And his record, Local Honey, right, my friend?
Yes, sir. Brian Fallon from the Gaslight Anthem. This is his, correct me if I'm wrong, 3rd solo album?
That is correct, yes.
There are some singles out, I believe, ironically, 3 singles as well at this point. I'm not in love with it yet. Where are you?
So you mentioned something. You said Brian Fallon, formerly of the Gaslight Anthem. Is that something that we know of? Are they just done, or is that kind of an infinite hiatus? And I would think it's infinite hiatus, right?
I think so. I mean, I don't. Hey, look, I'm not loving the solo stuff, if we're being honest.
Ooh.
I mean, like, some of it's good, right? I think of the 2 albums that are out, there's like 3/4 of a really good album. If you wanted to just replace some of those guys in that band and just play Gaslight songs live, I'd be into that.
Yeah. If he mellowed them down a little bit.
No. I'm they were recorded as the Gaslight Anthem, and I understand. He'll be in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes,
the day after St. Patrick's Day, Frank.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
As will I.
Yeah. So from what I understand, he still does some of those songs, but mellowed out. I would have liked to have seen the Gaslight Anthem. I never had the opportunity to see them. Don't know that I need another record from them either while we're at it.
Yeah, so, listen, I think Painkillers was a good album. I enjoyed it. I did. Second album, Sleepwalkers, it's half a good album. You brought up some good points there. The stuff I've heard thus far, listen, it's going to be a mellow record. You could tell, right? It's going to be a mellow record, very atmospheric with kind of soft guitars in the background. Now, I say the word soft, but I'm not foreshadowing that is going to be just adult contemporary stuff, but it does seem almost to be leaning towards that. Now, is that okay? I guess we need the whole record really to make that assumption, to be honest with you. Here's the thing, a writer like him, who's a very, very talented writer, started off super, super strong with those Gaslight tunes, right? A lot of your Jersey background settings, Marys and this and that, and obviously you get compared to Springsteen when you do stuff like that. And at some point he had to make a turn, and the turn was to a more simplistic writing style, which again I'm okay with as long as the songs are good. It's as simple as that. So here's the thing, though. In Local Honey, the 3 tracks I've heard, in my opinion, when I'm listening to them, I'm predicting where they're going already before they even go there, because of things like chord structure, just his patterns when writing songs. And there's nothing that's popping out to me and like, wow, this is really something that hit me out of left field. So to me, it's all predictable. We have 3 predictable songs right now. So yeah, I'm a little skeptical, but it's something I think we should dedicate at least an episode to and listen. Yeah.
I'm definitely interested to see where it goes. My issues thus far are I don't mind a little bit of predictability as long as you're doing something meaningful with it. My issue with these is the persistent use of the electronic drums in the background.
Yeah, that's something else.
I don't mind that he's going a little more adult contemporary, a little more mellow, a little more. I mean, I almost want to say coffee house, just because.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I don't mind that he's doing that. I'm a little like, what is this electric drum sound in the back? With him, I always feel like there's more to it, and they're worth the deep dive. I'm a little leery at this point of what else is to come from this record.
Yeah. Well, it'll definitely it'll keep us engaged to see what the rest of it sounds like, that's for sure. One I'm kind of excited about, which I think you have a distaste for him and his brother, but it's Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds, Mark.
I don't know that I have a distaste for them. I mean, I just couldn't, we get it. You guys have a bunch of money. You were in a band that was once interesting. And, when I was in the 7th grade, that was impressive. I'm just not impressed by anything anymore. So, what's Noel got left to say?
Well, that's the thing. Listen, he's a prolific writer. He really is. And listen, if you YouTube him and his brother, it just their antics. Listen to them speak. I mean, it's funny. I giggle personally for quite a long time just because of the ridiculous things he says. I mean, Noel Gallagher once referred to Jack White as Zorro on hamburgers. I mean, that to me is funny. It's funny. He doesn't like Phil Collins of Genesis. He has a little rift with him. It's funny. How's the music, though? Well, listen, Noel Gallagher is the talented one, right, out of the two. He writes some, I think, good songs. The High Flying Birds, listen, they're a psychedelic act. Really, at the end of the day, it's a psychedelic rock act. Again, very atmospheric. It's stuff that you have to be in the mood to listen to, but I'm going to at least give it a spin. That's all I got to say.
Well, it'll get one spin out of both of us.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, what's next on your map, my friend?
Well, one I'm definitely not looking forward to, but I know that we're going to talk about it. I'm not a Pearl Jam fan, folks.
Yeah.
It's been a very long time since I've been like, ooh, the Pearl Jam are good. The Pearl Jam, ooh. I like to say the Pearl Jam, by the way.
The Pearl Jam, there you go.
That makes it a little more obnoxious. They've got a new record coming out. It's like 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
Gigatron. Do you remember the name of that the single, like a Blood Moon Wolf?
Yeah, that's the second single, which is Super Blood Wolf Moon, which is actually the better single than Dance of the Clairvoyants, that was the first single, and that ironically was a little dancey. This song's a little more rocking, but I mean,
it's that first one. Like, can we talk about Pretentious?
Yeah, it sounds like a transformer, right? I mean,
yes, but I just fucking like this band and their self-righteous fucking.
Well, see, now that's the thing, and this has been the deal with Pearl Jam ever since they came out in the 90s, to me personally, is Eddie Vedder thinks he's way more important than he really is, right? Yeah,
and hey, look, I agree. Ticketmaster gouges us for tickets, and we're paying these absurd fees. When all they're doing is handling the ticket, and that's fucked up, and somebody should do something about it. And yeah, Eddie, great job for standing up for that. Also, where'd that get us? Nowhere.
Yeah.
So
I agree. And he's
fight that good fight, loser.
Yeah, there you go. You let them have it, Mark. Sometimes though, he's another one to me where he's almost a Bono-esque figure, where you're gonna ask, say, we want to talk about the Ramones. Well, Eddie Vedder's going to say he's the biggest Ramones fan. You talk about this band, all of a sudden he's, this band now has been the one to influence him the most. It's the same thing with Bono. You go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, and as you're walking into the actual Hall of Fame, the person who's introducing all these guys and saying that they've been the ones that have most influenced them are people like Bono and Eddie Vedder. And it's like, come on, man, I'm catching on. I know exactly what you guys are doing in your narcissistic moment, So it's, listen, I want to listen to the record. I want to believe that this is a band that still puts out records of quality and they're not just a nostalgia act. And let's see where this record takes us, right?
I do not want to listen to this record. I'm going to listen to it so that I can talk shit about it. Fuck you, the Pearl Jam.
There you go. I was trying to be the reasonable voice here.
Hey, Frank, there's a new Alanis Morissette record coming out called "Such Pretty Forks in the Road."
Wow.
Are we going to listen to that?
Oof. I will not listen to this.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same plane with you. I'm not doing that one.
Yeah.
What about Ice-T's infamous project Body Count has a new record coming out called Carnivore. There is a single called Bum Rush.
Yeah.
Look, it's Ice-T doing heavy metal. It's fun. I don't care. It's not that great, but it's Ice-T doing heavy metal.
There you go.
I'm gonna listen to it once to at least just be like, "Fuck yeah, Ice-T, you're still a badass."
And to say you listen to it, right?
Yep, that's about it.
Hey man, I'll give it a listen to, and if Mark says that it's entertaining, trust me, folks, it's entertaining. Speaking of entertaining, we got the Strokes. They're coming out with a new record, and it's another band. Don't hate me, folks out there, but I really haven't given them enough time and attention. I don't know, do I need to? But people, man, they got a big following. Mark.
Yeah, I thought they were. I thought the only other album was "This Is It," the 2001 album. I wasn't aware that there are like 4 other records. So, but I mean, hey, people are into them. I think there's a single out. I might listen to the single. If it's worth going further, I'll let you know. Folks at home, just wait to hear if I say anything else about it, or we just completely avoid the topic altogether.
Yeah, exactly. Again, though, if you don't hear from us in reference to the Strokes, then you know what our thoughts are. Yeah,
we've continued existing, forgetting that they exist.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So a record Frank is excited about.
Mm-hmm.
The Weezer.
The Weezer. That's right. Absolutely.
Van Weezer.
Yeah, Van Weezer. So, they're an interesting band in the sense where, listen, they put out to me 2 fantastic albums super early in their career. You have obviously that classic Blue album and Pinkerton, which is one of my all-time favorite records. Green album was a cash grab. Then you had a couple others in there where just the output was more than I think needed. Now, in 2017, they came out with an interesting album, which was called Pacific Daydream, which to me was Beach Boys meets if they were to put some Clash guitars into that. And I say guitars weird like that is because they strayed away from the usage of guitars. So now they're bringing back the guitars with Van Weezer, obviously an homage to Van Halen, and even the logo on the single kind of looks something out of that era too. I'll listen to it because I know it's going to at least be fun, and my girls like Weezer a lot. So, Mark, are you willing to give this one a spin?
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I definitely love those first 2 records, and I forget how many albums they put out after that. It's kind of crazy. I remember giggling at the Teal album, the cover album. Way better than Ozzy's cover album. But I mean, that didn't need to be much. It's kind of interesting though. They're kind of really cranking out records at this point. I'm interested to see what that back to guitar sounds like. Back to guitar sound, whatever.
I gotcha.
Yeah. I said it so fast that I was like, did I just say the same word 4 times in a row? So I'm interested to hear that. There's some other stuff coming up that I have no interest in, like the Used, and they have an album called Hard Work coming out. I don't know about you, dude, but I just could not care less about the Used.
Well, I think the drummer felt the same, hence why he went to Rancid, right?
Burn.
Oh, burn. Ooh. So, listen.
Is that when did this happen? I mean, was he on one of those terrible Rancid records?
So Let the Dominoes Fall was the first record that he was on.
Oh. Now I see the problem. The Used ruined Rancid.
Oh, so you really didn't know that? So that's new news to you, huh?
Yeah, that's the new news about the Used.
There you go. Not to be confused with Huey Lewis and the News, right?
Correct.
So you used another band where, I mean, listen, early 2000s, you couldn't get away from them at the end of the day, and the Taste of Ink was everywhere when they still wanted to play guitar-driven music. Listen, I could see why they got popular. I mean, that album had some tunes on it. Box Full of Sharp Objects is another tune I'm thinking of, and I think I'm going to make Mark fall asleep by talking about how good the Used are, and the Used are okay. But,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
We're
no,
talking
it's
about the
okay.
Used?
Yeah, we are.
God damn it.
After that, uh, I couldn't get into them. I think they really just have like two songs. But Mark,
Yeah, I just don't care. I mean, I don't know why this band is still around. I don't know why people cared in the first place. Maybe that's just me.
could have been the timing thing. They got popular at this time. They had the right people, in line to get them out there, and that viral nature maybe kind of just caught on, and they kind of been writing that since. I don't know. I'm just saying stuff now.
Fair enough. What about this newfound glory?
Ooh,
Forever times infinity.
ooh, ooh.
How?
Ah.
Why? I mean, like, how does this band not broken up yet?
Yeah, they're another band. I've never realized it, and I'm never realized their insane amount of popularity. And I don't say that just because we practically grew up in the neighboring towns from them. So I'm not trying to diss them and their hard earned success. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. They come off as being this pop punk with hardcore roots. Again, just because I think the guitar player is Winston Shai Halud. And listen, they have had some memorable tunes, but I mean, a lot of it is just, listen, surface level stuff, whiny vocals. Sorry, Jordan, you do have whiny vocals. I can't even sing, but you do have whiny vocals. Just, I don't know, just not good stuff, man. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure I've seen them half a dozen times live, if not more. But all of that pre 2002. So fuck you.
There you go.
And it was usually because they were just on another show. I just don't get it. I mean, hey, look, they're supposedly great guys. I just don't know what we need another one of these records for.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's another one of those bands that they're by if this album stinks, more than likely it does, and the next couple after that stink, they're just going to be a nostalgia act, man. They're going to ruin themselves by putting out this stuff,
Yeah, well, they're on the Pop Punk Still Not Dead tour this summer.
Oh my.
And go listen to that new single, right? The new single is like, I remember when we drew stick figures together on the side of a wall or something. Like, it's the dumbest shit. Like,
yikes.
Come on, dude. Like, this band has never had anything to say other than, I like girls, but girls are dumb, so I choose my friends. But I still like girls. Like, I just can't stand this band.
Yeah. I know, and it's funny because when me and you first met and we were in our band together, the early 2000s, this was a band, Newfound Glory, that we stated we didn't like then, and here we are many years later, still talking about our
distaste.
Distaste for them. Sorry, I couldn't get the word, but yeah, it's funny. I didn't like them then, and I don't like them now.
Yeah, there's a band that I go back and forth with a lot. It's the Bomb Pops. They have like this great pop sensibility to them. It's two girls and two boys in the band. The girls do all the singing and presumably most of the songwriting. Sometimes they get me and sometimes they don't. Of the two singles that they've released off their new album, Death in Venice, I'm just not connecting to any of it.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I usually, but I do this with their records. I go like every other song I dislike. And so I'm interested to see if some of this album will catch up to me and will be interesting. Just so far, I'm having a really hard time getting into it. Have you heard anything from it?
Well, you know what? I've heard of the band, obviously, and I heard of the singles you're speaking of, and yeah, it didn't really stand out for me. I give them credit because they're really influenced by those '90s Epitaph and Fat Records bands. No Use for a Name, Pennywise, Bad Religion, Strung Out, and stuff like that. So I give them credit there. I will listen to the album though, because sometimes the singles that they release, depending on who decides to release it, sometimes it's not really the best indication as to how that album is going to be. So you got to give it a listen to. Again, it's a full record, right? It's not just all about the singles and the and just these tracks right here. So yeah, I'll give it a spin, but yeah, didn't get in. Yeah, it didn't really hook me early on.
Yeah, they're one of those bands that always tricks me because the musicianship is great. These girls can shred on guitar. The rhythm section, these guys are tight. They're fast. They're a great band. Just for whatever reasons, the songs I have a hard time clicking with about half of them, and so far on this new one, I'm clicking with about none of it. So there's a band called the Homeless Gospel Choir. Frank, you have no gospel choir knowledge, right?
That is 1,000% correct.
So these guys put out. Well, it's not really these guys. It's kind of one guy, kind of folk, kind of punk. He's from Pittsburgh. I think his name is Dan. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Dan from Pittsburgh.
And he does, kind of crass, not crass the band, but kind of like folk punky stuff. In 2017, he released an album called Presents Normal, which got a ton of really great critical reviews. That's actually how I found out about him first, was reading some of my favorite blogs about new bands. I really liked the record for how snarky it was, for how honest it was. So he's got a new record coming out. And I'm really interested to see where it goes. It's called This Land Is Your Landfill.
Okay.
Should be interesting, but it's one of those that style where it could not work very quick.
Gotcha. It could go either way, right? Really quick.
Yeah, and then I just got two more that I'm really excited about. Pears.
I know you're a big Pears fan.
Pears. Pears is releasing a self-titled album. It's their third album. I really like the sound. It's thrash meets melody meets pop punk, kind of really just crammed into one. I really dig their first two records. I'm really interested to see where the third one goes. The snippets I've heard seem cool. Seems like they're following the same trajectory as the first two records, but hopefully there's enough differentiate them and really make for a good record. I'm looking forward to that. And then the one I'm really the most stoked about is the Suicide Machines putting out a new record.
Yeah, I know you are. You're stoked.
Yeah, Revolution Springs. I think it comes out mid to late March. You may not get a full review out of me on it, but you guys will definitely know how I feel about it because I love the Suicide Machines. I thought the last two records were great. It's been a bummer that it's been like 10, 15 years since that last record came out. But I'm really excited for it. The single for it is exactly what you want out of them. So I'm pretty pumped on it. Was there anything else you wanted to mention in terms of upcoming records?
Yeah, just two quick bands to mention, and I don't think we have hardcore dates on this, but we have the Deftones, which I'm a big fan of the Deftones. Their 2016 album Gore, I thought was really good. It had obviously their traditional kind of heavy metal riff stuff, and then this light atmospheric dark kind of stuff too, which was really cool on there. I like that album. I like that album a lot. It was a challenging album. It invites you on this journey, so to speak, which was really cool. Great instrumentation. So I'm excited to see what we get next from the Deftones, and then a more mainstream band that most people are going to know, and my wife's a huge fan of them, but the Killers. They got I know an album slated, hopefully coming out in 2020. I saw them live with my wife. I think they're a really fantastic band. Their last couple albums have been okay. First three though, to me, are really really good. They really kind of perfect that alternative indie rock, almost Cars type sound from the '80s, Pet Shop Boys, stuff like that. So yeah, kind of interested to see what we get from them. And I don't know, Mark, maybe there's some other releases that are coming out that we didn't see on the calendar, and will surprise us.
Yeah, definitely. I think in a couple months we'll be able to do the summer preview, see as people announce what's going to be released and what we can expect from. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm a little shocked. I didn't know that you've seen the Killers live, and I feel like I don't even know you right now. No, I'm just kidding. No, hey, look, I think it's going to be a fun year for music, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be some stuff that we hopefully really like. I think there's going to be some stuff that's probably going to disappoint us, and there's going to be some stuff we fucking knew we were going to hate, and we do.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to this year in terms of new music and finding records for each other, both new and old.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, man. And, again, that discovery, I think that discovery is going to be really, really the most exciting part of it. And that's what this is all about. And speaking of discovery, I think, Mark, you got a record for me from someone I have in a band I have no clue about. So you want to tell everyone about that?
Yeah. So, I've been thinking about some of the releases we've done, some of the records we've done lately, some of the different things, some of the subtle vibes, and trying to figure out which way to go. So I picked something a little different for Frank. I picked St. Paul and the Broken Bones. I want you to do their first album, Half the City. This is an Alabama 8-piece soul band.
Wow.
It's really interesting. I like this record in particular because you're really feeling the band. You really feel like you're in the room with them. It's really well produced. This is it's Paul Janway is the singer,
Okay.
and the bass player Jesse Phillips. We're actually in 2012 looking to put like kind of a farewell project together as they were about to like just kind of go on with their lives and do something outside of being in a band. And this thing kind of happened. Like it organically kind of grew out of it. And they found a horn section, they found a keyboard player, they released an EP, and people just went crazy. And then, this album got put together, and it's a really fun. You can tell that they're really passionate about it. It's a soul record, so it's going to be a little different than what you're used to in terms of kind of songs that just kind of come out and punch you in the gut a couple times. There's going to be a little bit of some gut punching. Excuse me. There's going to be a little bit of some soulful soothing, and
Yeah.
he's going to talk to you a little bit. So I'm interested to see what you think of this, if nothing else, just to see how far I can push you with different things. So for next week, Frank, please check out St. Paul and the Broken Bones, Half the City.
Yeah. Listen, I'm excited. And me and you could throw back punk albums all day to each other, but really kind of the point of this is again giving me something that's maybe outside of my comfort zone. And this is really the epitome of that, because I'll be honest with you, outside of maybe some soul elements that the Afghan Wigs put into their songs and Get Happy from Elvis Costello, I'm not the biggest like traditional kind of soul fan. Like it's not your two guitars, bass and drum, right? So the song structure is different. I just haven't had anything that moves me, but that's not to say that there isn't anything that will move me. So I think this is a great record to throw at me, and I'm really excited to see it. I'm looking at it right now, and can't wait to dig into it, man, and give you my thoughts on it.
Excellent. Well, thanks for listening, folks.
Yeah, thank you.
Continue to tell people about us. Tell them we said some really crazy shit so they listen next time. Make something happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Let them know that these two guys are just annoying, and they get under our skin, but we have to come back and listen to them. We have to come back and do it. That's
also really funny.
But yes, also extremely funny. And again, hey, listen, everyone, if we took you away from the stresses of your day just so we could sit here and talk about music, that's all that matters to us, man. This is our passion. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a review if you think we've warranted that. Again, we're excited to bring some really cool stuff for you in the future. And Mark, anything left to say to anybody?
You can find us on YouTube.
You can.
No, man. Hey, thanks for listening, Frank. Thanks for doing a fun podcast with me, buddy.
You got it, man. Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, and can't wait for next week and, of course, the subsequent weeks after that. So be well, everyone, and talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Later. Cowabunga.